Before we begin, I want you to take a moment and breathe. Not the shallow breath you take when you're tense or distracted, but a slow, deliberate breath. Because the next few minutes are not just another lesson. They are an invitation to look inward, to explore the side of trading most people never confront, and to understand the part of the game that shapes every decision you make, your mind. Mind over markets isn't about charts or strategies or predictions. It's about the unseen battles inside you, the fear, the doubt, the impulses, the pressure, the quiet stories you tell yourself before you click the button. This episode is different. It's deeper. It's personal. Because today we're not studying the market. We're studying you, your patterns, your habits, your hidden emotional loops, the parts of yourself that cost you the most, and the parts that can transform you the fastest. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever repeated the same mistakes, if you've ever wondered why discipline feels like a promise you can't keep, then let this be the moment everything shifts. Because today we're not just reviewing trades, we're turning pain into wisdom, mistakes into structure, experience into a playbook. This is the path from emotional chaos to psychological mastery, from randomness to responsibility, from who you were as a trader to who you are becoming. Welcome to Mind Over Markets. Sometimes the most painful moments in trading are the ones we try hardest to forget. The losses we don't want to look at. The mistakes we pretend were bad luck. The emotional decisions we blame on the market instead of on ourselves. But here's the quiet truth no one likes to say out loud. Every unreviewed mistake becomes a seed that grows roots that bury themselves deeper until they become habits, patterns, reflexes. And by the time you finally notice them, they've already shaped the trader you've become. Today, I want to take you on a journey from pain to playbook, from the chaos of emotional trading to the clarity of structured reflection, from the version of you that reacts to the version of you that sees. And it starts with a simple idea. You cannot correct what you refuse to confront, and you cannot grow from something you don't even take the time to understand. Most traders lose money, but what's far more dangerous is that most traders lose lessons. So in this episode of Mind Over Markets, we're going to do something different. We're going to turn your most painful trades into the most powerful teacher you will ever have. Not the market, not indicators, not strategies. Your own lived experience distilled, decoded, transformed into a personal playbook, a roadmap built from your scars. Let's begin. Before we dive into the checklist, I want you to remember something essential. Your brain hates pain. It avoids it. It runs from it. It hides behind distractions, new trades, excuses, and I'll review it later. Losses trigger cortisol. Your brain enters survival mode. And survival mode doesn't want reflection. It wants escape. This is why so many traders repeat the same mistakes. They never review them deeply enough to understand their origin. Their strategy changes, their indicators change, their time frame changes, but their psychology stays exactly the same. They're rearranging the furniture in the same burning house. If you've ever wondered why you keep blowing up accounts, why you keep violating your own rules, why you keep promising yourself you'll be disciplined tomorrow, the answer is simple. You don't have a feedback loop. You don't have a mirror. You don't have a structured review process that forces your emotions into the light. And that's why today's checklist matters, because it brings structure to the chaos. It gives shape to the intangible. It turns emotional pain into clarity, then clarity into rules, then rules into a playbook, a personal map no one else can give you. But before we unpack the checklist, let's talk about why traders avoid reviewing pain in the first place. Think about the last time you took a painful loss. Really think about it. Did you want to open the chart afterward? Did you want to journal it? Did you want to study it? Or did you want to get your money back? Did you want to prove something to the market or to yourself? Maybe you told yourself it wasn't your fault. Maybe you blamed the news. Maybe you said it was just timing. Maybe you convinced yourself that next time you'd be different. But deep down, a part of you knew that wasn't true. You weren't avoiding the chart. You were avoiding the feeling underneath the chart. You weren't afraid of candlesticks. You were afraid of accountability, and you're not alone. Every trader goes through this. The brain is wired to protect your identity, not your strategy. It would rather repeat comforting lies than face uncomfortable truths. And the biggest lie of all is that the loss is gone just because you closed the chart. The truth is, every loss you ignore continues trading inside of you. Every emotional decision you avoid examining becomes part of your default behavior. Every pattern you leave in the dark grows stronger. But when you review your pain with structure, with honesty, with intention, it stops being pain. It becomes information. It becomes insight. It becomes power. This is the transformation I call from pain to playbook. Now let's go deeper into the heart of today's lesson. The first step in the case review checklist is simple, yet almost no one does it. Emotional state before the trade. Not the chart, not the setup, not the indicators, your emotional state, because your emotions decide long before your strategy does. If you enter a trade while frustrated, bored, euphoric, stressed, or chasing, it doesn't matter how perfect the setup looks. Your emotions have already placed the trade for you. Your logic is just there to rationalize it. Every trade has two entries, the emotional entry and the actual entry. Most traders only record the second one. Professionals record the first one. Why does this matter? Because emotions are the invisible hand that moves your mouse. They tighten your grip. They rush your decisions. They distort your perception. And until you can recognize your emotional entry point, you will never be in control of your trades. So in your review, ask yourself, what was I feeling before I clicked the button? Was I calm or was I restless? Was I following a plan or trying to fill a void? Was I seeking opportunity or seeking relief? You'd be surprised how many losing trades begin with emotions that had nothing to do with the market. A fight with someone you love, a stressful day at work, a previous loss still stinging, a previous win still inflating your confidence, loneliness, impatience, boredom. These may seem unrelated, but they shape your behavior more than any chart pattern ever will. Your emotional state is the context. The chart is just the excuse. Once you start reviewing trades this way, something powerful happens. You begin to see that your losses were never random. They were predictable, repeatable, patterned. And if your pain is patterned, it can be decoded. It can be understood. It can be rewritten. That's what this checklist is for. And this is only the beginning. Now that you've examined your emotional state before the trade, we move to the next question. It is perhaps the most honest question any trader can ever ask themselves. Why did I really take this trade? Not the reason you told yourself. Not the technical explanation you crafted afterward. The real reason, the raw reason. Because behind every trade, there's a truth. A truth you can only uncover when you're willing to remove the layers of rationalization your brain builds to protect your ego. Every losing trader has a strategy, but every winning trader has self-awareness. So let me ask you, when you look back at your trades, can you tell the difference between a true setup and a psychological impulse? Most traders cannot. They confuse desire with conviction, hope with opportunity, urgency with clarity. They don't enter trades because their strategy told them to. They enter trades because their emotions demanded action. So in your case review, you must ask yourself directly without filters, was this trade initiated by a legitimate signal, or was it initiated by a psychological trigger? A trigger like boredom, a trigger like fear of missing out, a trigger like needing to win back the money you just lost, a trigger like feeling unstoppable after 3 wins in a row, a trigger like seeing someone else post a big profit online, a trigger like needing to feel productive today. These triggers are subtle but deadly. They masquerade as intuition. They disguise themselves as decisiveness. They feel like confidence, but they're really just emotional momentum. This is why the second step of the checklist matters so much: the trigger. Why you entered the trade. You need to identify the real origin of the decision, because if your trades are born from impulse, they will die in regret. But if your trades are born from clarity, they will stand the test of randomness. The market is unpredictable. Your behavior doesn't have to be. Now we move deeper to the part of the trade where psychology and performance collide: execution. Execution is not about strategy. Execution is about behavior. Everyone knows how to follow a plan when they're calm. Everyone knows how to be disciplined when the trade is small. Everyone knows how to respect a stop loss when the market moves slowly. But the market rarely moves slowly, and you are rarely calm. Execution is where your emotional strength is tested. It's where fear whispers that you should close early. It's where greed tells you to chase a bigger move. It's where impatience makes you rush. It's where doubt paralyzes you. It's where every psychological flaw becomes visible. So during your review, you must confront your execution with absolute honesty. Ask yourself, did I follow my plan? Did I respect my stop? Did I size my position correctly? Did I let the trade breathe the way my rules require? Or did I interfere because the short-term emotional pain felt unbearable? Most traders don't fail because they lack strategy. They fail because they interfere with their own strategy. They cut winners early because the discomfort of waiting is stronger than the excitement of profiting. They hold losers too long because the fear of loss is stronger than the truth of the chart. They move stop losses because acknowledging a loss feels like a threat to their identity. And when you ignore rules in real time, you're not trading the market, you're trading your emotions. A strategy is only as strong as your ability to execute it under pressure. This is why execution must be reviewed with brutal self-honesty. You must be able to say, I broke my rule, without adding excuses. Excuses delay progress. Honesty accelerates it. Next, we examine something traders rarely think about: how you interpreted the outcome. Most traders believe that a win is good and a loss is bad, but trading psychology teaches a deeper truth. There are good losses and bad wins. A good loss occurs when you followed your plan perfectly, but the market simply didn't go your way. It's clean, it's controlled, it's disciplined. It's the kind of loss that strengthens your edge. A bad win occurs when you broke your rules, entered impulsively, moved your stop loss, or held longer than planned, and still made money. It feels good in the moment, but it destroys your psychology long term. Because a bad win reinforces the wrong behavior. It tells your brain, you see, you don't have to follow the rules. You can get away with it. This is how accounts blow up. Not in one catastrophic mistake, but in a series of small reinforced habits that grow stronger over time. So your review must answer one essential question. Did the result match the behavior, or was the outcome deceiving you? If you treat every win as proof you're skilled and every loss as proof you're flawed, you will never grow. But if you evaluate your behavior independent of the outcome, You will evolve faster than 95% of traders. You will stop identifying with results and start identifying with process. That shift alone can save years of pain. Now we arrive at one of the most powerful parts of the checklist pattern recognition. This is where pain becomes insight, where mistakes become mirrors, where you stop analyzing individual trades and start analyzing yourself. Because a single loss doesn't matter, but repeated psychological patterns do. Patterns like overtrading on Fridays, or trading larger after a breakup, or forcing trades after missing an opportunity, or entering impulsively after watching someone else succeed, or trading aggressively during a winning streak, or taking oversized risks when feeling lonely, or revenge trading after a stressful day. These patterns have nothing to do with your strategy. They have everything to do with your emotional wiring. And until you recognize your patterns, you cannot break them. You will repeat them unconsciously, automatically, predictably. But the moment you see your pattern clearly, it loses its power. Awareness dissolves autopilot. So as you review your case, ask yourself, have I done this before? Does this mistake resemble any previous behavior? Is this part of a larger emotional loop I've been ignoring? Because if your pain is repeating, it's trying to teach you something. And when you finally hear the message, the cycle breaks. This is how traders evolve. Not by changing strategies, but by changing themselves. Now that you've identified the emotional state, the trigger, the execution, the outcome, and the recurring patterns behind your trades, we step into the real heart of transformation. Not the analysis, not the journaling, but what comes next. Taking the insight and turning it into a rule, a boundary, a principle, a piece of your personal playbook. Because awareness without application changes nothing. Insight without action is wasted potential. Real growth only begins when you take what was once painful and convert it into something that protects you in the future. This is the moment your past stops haunting you and starts serving you. The process is simple but profound. It begins with step 1. Identify the behavioral pattern that caused the pain. Not the trade result, not the P&L, not the technical flaw, the pattern. Patterns are the blueprint of your mind. They are psychological signatures, predictable, repeatable, recognizable. Once exposed, they lose their invisibility. So what did you see during your case review? Maybe you noticed that you always trade emotionally after a losing streak, or that you size up too aggressively after a win. Maybe you break rules when you're stressed. Maybe you get reckless when you're bored. Maybe you chase when you feel behind in life. Maybe you take impulsive entries when you're tired. Maybe you let losers run because you fear being wrong. Whatever the pattern is, name it. Because if you can name it, you can tame it. Write the pattern as honestly and clearly as possible, not sugar-coated, not softened, not disguised. Something like I impulsively add size when I feel behind, or I break my rules whenever I'm stressed, or I refuse to cut losers because I avoid emotional pain. These are not weaknesses. These are starting points. Every strong trader begins where they feel the most vulnerable. After identifying the pattern, step 2 begins. Transform the pattern into a rule. This is where pain becomes structure, where chaos becomes clarity, where the emotional self is guided by the disciplined self. A rule is not a suggestion. A rule is a boundary, a line that protects you from the parts of yourself that sabotage you. Your rule might be, if I lose 2 trades in a row, I stop for the day. Or, if I feel emotional, I must wait 15 minutes before entering another trade. Or, I never increase size after a win. or I must walk away for 5 minutes before moving my stop, or no trades allowed when my emotional rating exceeds 6 out of 10. These rules aren't arbitrary, they're personal. They come from your patterns. They are designed specifically to counter the parts of you that interfere with your success. A rule is like a safety rail. It keeps you from falling into the same psychological holes. It interrupts the loop. It rewires your reactions. It promotes deliberate action over emotional impulse. And over time, rules become habits. Habits become principles. Principles become identity. Eventually, you no longer follow the rules. You become the type of trader who doesn't need to break them. Now we enter step 3. Integrate the rule into your playbook. Your playbook is not a journal. It's not a diary. It's not a place for emotion. Your playbook is a living document, a blueprint of who you are as a trader at your highest level. It contains your setups, your risk parameters, your processes, but most importantly, it contains your psychological rules, the ones designed to keep you aligned with your best self. Every powerful trader has a playbook, not because the market demands it, but because their mind does. Without structure, your emotional brain will fill the empty space with noise. Noise becomes impulse. Impulse becomes disaster. Your playbook is the antidote. So take the rule you created from your pain and place it inside your playbook, not buried, not hidden, prominently. It becomes when X pattern appears. I follow Y rule. This connection is critical. It links emotional awareness with behavioral response. It closes the feedback loop. It transforms psychological chaos into predictable action. This is where growth happens. Not in reacting, but in pre-deciding. In being the version of yourself who has already chosen discipline long before the moment of temptation arrives. Now let's step away from theory, because nothing resonates more deeply than a real story. A story that might mirror your own. A trader once came to me after blowing 3 accounts. Each time he blamed the market. Each time he blamed volatility. Each time he blamed bad luck. But after reviewing his trades, a pattern emerged. He didn't blow up because of strategy. He blew up because of emotion. After every losing trade, he increased size to make the money back. After every big win, he increased size again this time because he felt invincible. He never traded according to rules, only according to feelings. His account didn't blow up randomly. It followed a pattern, a psychological loop. Once he saw the loop, the truth hit him hard. The enemy wasn't the market. The enemy was his unexamined pain. We took the pattern, turned it into a rule, integrated it into his playbook. The rule was simple. No size increases after a win or loss. Size only changes at weekly review. That single rule saved him because it removed his emotions from the most dangerous part of trading position sizing. And over time, the pattern dissolved. The loop broke. His equity curve stabilized. Then it grew. Not because he found a new strategy, but because he found himself. This is the power of turning pain into playbook. Your losses stop being scars. They become structure. But there's one more layer, a deeper one, a layer that separates the average trader from the truly elite trader. It's not just about rules. It's about identity. Who are you becoming through this process? Who are you evolving into? What version of yourself emerges when you stop running from pain and start dissecting it? Because in trading, identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes decisions. Decisions shape results. When you see yourself as a reckless trader, you behave recklessly. When you see yourself as a disciplined trader, you behave with discipline. When you see yourself as a reactive trader, you react. When you see yourself as a strategic trader, You respond with clarity. Your playbook is not just a tool for performance. It is a tool for identity transformation. Every time you add a rule, you are rewriting your character. Every time you follow a rule, you are reinforcing a new self-image. Every time you review your pain, you become more resilient, more self-aware, more unshakable. You're not just becoming a better trader, you're becoming a different one. In the final section, we will bring everything together. We will talk about resilience mindset and the core message behind this entire philosophy. When you're ready for the conclusion, say next. If you've followed this journey all the way to the end, then something inside you has already begun to change. Not because of my words, but because of your willingness to look inward and face the truth most traders spend their entire lives avoiding. You now understand something that many never will. Growth doesn't come from winning. Growth comes from what you do with your losses. Your pain is not the end of the path. It is the beginning of the transformation. Every moment of frustration, every emotional impulse, every blown setup, every fear, every mistake, they were never failures. They were messages. And today you finally listened. You turned those messages into insight. You turned insight into rules. And you turned rules into the foundation of your playbook, a playbook designed not by theory, but by experience, by honesty, by your own evolution. Carry this with you, not as information, but as identity. Because the trader you are becoming is not someone who avoids pain, but someone who understands it. Not someone who reacts to emotions, but someone who reads them. Not someone who chases the market, but someone who commands their own mind. This is the beginning of a new chapter for you. A chapter where your discipline is intentional, your decisions are conscious, and your growth is inevitable. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to look deeper. And remember, the market tests everyone, but only those who master themselves rise above it. This is mind over markets. Until next time, trade patiently, trade consciously, and most importantly, trade as the person you are becoming.